Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, I'm going to ask our clerk to read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Here.
Homobian.
Here.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, Thank you. At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Joe Caruso. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Fusco will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow. Father God, tonight we just ask that some of your greatest prayers, wishes, and priorities kind of flood this place. You call us to not only seek you, but to love each other. You call us to unity. You yourself in the garden prayed for unity among your people. And you call us not only to be correct, but to figure out how that we can connect, serve, and help one another. And so Jesus, tonight as we pray, as we talk, as we share, as we get things out in the open, I pray that those are the things that lead us well. God, help us to be wise. Help us to articulate what you have placed on our hearts. And Father, I pray again that you would continue to lead us toward a collective unity to work together for the betterment of our city. And it's your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get your thing passed.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided to all of council. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Homobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes passed 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Homobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We have no public hearings scheduled for this evening. We're going to move into old business, budget and finance. Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for its passage.
Do you have any further comment?
No, ma'am. We had 3 nights of budget hearings last week before last. I lose track of time. And then we heard comments today. Then we're going to have some follow-up legislation later on that's kind of piggyback on that. And with that, we ask for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the committee's report is favorable. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. We had lengthy discussion today, so won't make it long tonight. But, I was thinking just now, I really never thought in my life I'd be voting on almost $750 million budget. let alone voting no on one. But that's what I'm going to do. As we've discussed for many weeks now, there's language in this budget that basically allows for a lot of spending on contracting and consulting contracting without council approving, as really is required by our charter. And I think there's consensus that that's a practice that should broadly end. But if we actually want it to end, we should take the language out now. If everyone agrees we're not going to use the language, which it seems like is the case, then we should take it out now. So I look forward to us all working to improve how our council functions in terms of oversight of contracts. But I believe this, like our ARPA decisions, is a really critical decision for our city in terms of how our council functions, the power of our council to provide oversight and a check, no matter who is in the administration, no matter who is mayor, on how public funds and public finances are used. Thank you.
Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. I too rise to express my wonder at the great privilege of casting a vote on the moral reflection of the city of Akron, and that is our budget, our operating budget. As I expressed at great length this afternoon, I too am concerned about the provision known as Section 56. It is, at the end of the day, a deep concern that the citizens of the city of Akron who pay for the operations of the city have been for decades now not given that full ability to see and understand spending decisions that, absent Section 56 and its predecessor numbered items, absent that provision, would have enjoyed the benefit of our charter's provisions regarding expenditures in excess of a threshold amount. In 2020, the City Charter Review Commission made the decision to raise that threshold amount to $50,000. Now, we are here today, those of us who are serving and those of us who are in the gallery, because we care and because we believe that trust matters, because that we believe that the job here is important. And it is for all of these reasons that I too will vote against this budget. Now, this is not to say that there are not many, many good and valuable provisions in this budget. Our city workers are valuable and appreciated. It is not the case that a vote against this budget is a vote not to pay our workers. Every member of this city council believes in the dignity of work and the value of our workers. We also believe in trust and in encouraging that trust in our community and between and among each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm rising in favor of this resolution. As Councilwoman Holland said, trust does matter. So I'm trusting the administration here that this Section 56 has been around since, whatever we said, 60 years. So as Mr. Fricker pointed out this afternoon, we need to, go back to our managers and department heads and work out the process, because they've been working with this process. So, does Section 56 have some problems? Certainly. But we need to, trust the administration here and pass this budget. Thank you.
Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise too, and acknowledging that I will not vote in support of this budget. I offered a solution, I thought, this afternoon, since everybody was in agreement with us not following the path of the 56 article any longer. I said, why don't we walk this path together and trust one another to do that? Because we can certainly do that. If everybody agrees that we should take it out, then it's easy for us to take it out, and if we work through whatever is needed that they don't have the authorization to do without it, then we can walk the path together. And I think that should be doable, and that would not interfere with any operations of this city. So I think, we have offered all kinds of recommendations and suggestions. And again, many of us did not know it was there. We didn't realize the extent of the spending that was going on without us knowing beforehand. And now that we do, it's time for us to pull back and then walk together on figuring out how do we move forward with this. So with that, I am not going to support the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. I rise and echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I, too, will not be supporting this budget for one particular reason, item 56. We have a charter in place for a reason. Our job is to be a checks and balance of government. And with line item 56 being there, we are no longer being a checks and balance of government. And that is problematic for us as a city when we talk about transparency and trust. And because of that, I will be voting no. This is not a reflection on our workers. We appreciate everything that they do for this city. This is not about people not being paid. This is about us being transparent and being honest. And if that means moving things that are over $50,000 out, we should have done that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Baylor?
I rise in support to pass the budget. I think it's the responsible thing for us to do.
Councilwoman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you turn your microphone on? Thank you.
I think it's the responsible thing to do for us council members. We all know there's problems with 56. There's been conversation around that to work through those problems with the administration. And like you said, let's do it together. Let's walk this thing together. But right now, the budget is important, because if we don't pass the budget in a timely manner, what happens to the people who are depending on services and goods that may not arrive because of that? There are consequences to so many things and decisions that we make, but we should respect each other's decision either to be for something or not for it, because we have our own reasons for that, but we should respect each other's differences, and we should agree to disagree sometimes without personal feelings towards one another, because we're all here to do the same thing, is to move the city forward, do the best we can for every constituent in the city of Akron. But it's a big job, and it's not easy. These are some hard decisions, and a lot of times we don't know all the fallout that can come from a decision that we make, and we haven't done a good job communicating to you guys, but we got to do better, and we will do better. So this is something that I want to work towards anyway, is doing better by being proactive rather than being reactive to things, communicating effectively to our constituency so that they have a thorough understanding of what's going on, why we voted the way we did, what are some of the outcomes for the different ways that people vote, so that they can understand us a little bit better. But I'm voting for it because I think it's the responsible thing to do. And I'm looking forward to this trust thing. So it has to start somewhere, but we can work through all of this together.
Any other comments at this time? Councilman Neal?
Madam President, I think this council has, not voluntarily, but been forced into trusting this administration. $145 million unchecked being spent. For my colleagues on council, you are asking us to basically commit legislative malpractice by not fulfilling our main responsibility, which is overseeing the city's budget. Plain and simple. Overseeing the city's budget. Maybe we all need to, and I mean this seriously, maybe we all need to take that, was it the 11th grade civics class that taught us about how government functions? This is our responsibility. Now, it's not just item 56 that has me concerned with the budget. What also has me concerned, we've had a Race, Justice, and Social Equity Task Force. We've got the Brookings Institute. Nowhere in the budget are there any metrics to see if we are addressing any of those systemic items that were addressed in that report. No way to track it, no way to see if we're making equitable investment. Not only with the budget, but not with the ARPA dollars either. Nothing. And then we come to, this year has been horrific. Each year, more and more violence now is permeating our schools, not just our communities. We've heard about the environmental concerns. We've heard about the housing concerns. Colleagues, look at our goals and objectives under council. Are any of those things listed? Are any of them listed? No. We have not line item anything. And we haven't even discussed council's budget. You know, you say be transparent, I hear you. But what has come before this council was putting our budget online multiple times. Multiple times. It's not online. We passed the legislation before most of you were even on council. It's still not online. Citizens participatory budget process. I hear folks talking about it that are running for mayor. This has been passed by council years ago, still not online. So you ask about trust. I can't, trust is where we go back to, I've heard people say we've been doing this for 60 years. Folks, that is one of the things that we call systemic, doing things over and over and over and over and over again, knowing that they create disparities, knowing that basically we're creating legislative malpractice, taking the power away from this body. We have to change that now. If there's trust, we've extended trust, $145 million. Let us do our job. And really, council, we don't have to ask for permission. What we need to is for everybody in this body to understand our obligation to our constituents as legislators to oversee the budget. But again, my only concern is not just 56, it's the total, it's just a total disregard and respect for what this body as a legislative body is supposed to do when we have not even discussed our own budget. We have not even discussed the goals and objectives that are in there. You know what? Since I've been down here, been pushing for that, and year after year, the same systemic practice happens. I remember one year, our goals and objectives were to get these new chairs for council chambers. Another year when we had high rates of murder in the city. What are we doing down here? So I'm not voting for the budget because one, we still have time to have discussion. In item 56, as it's listed, you know, I thank all my colleagues that have done the deep dive reading. 120-something million in 2 years? What has it been in 8, 10? What has it been in 60? If we were to average 120-something million every 2 years, we'd be over $500 million. Well over $500 million. And you don't think we're accountable for letting our constituents know what's up with that money? So I don't see how anyone that calls himself a councilman representing the citizens of Akron can vote for this budget with good conscience. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any additional comments at this time? Seeing and hearing none. Chairman, did you have something else?
No, just the committee is asking for approval. I will say to folks listening that we do have open books online, and I know what Mr. Neal was referring to. We're referring to the, help me out, what was it? Balancing Act, yes. But open books online are out there, and but with that, we're asking for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the committee's report is favorable. All in favor? Roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Nay.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Nay.
Mosley?
Nay.
Neal?
Nay.
Amobian?
Nay.
Somerville?
Aye.
The vote is 8-5. The resolution passes.
Thank you so much. Well, Councilman Neal?
Yes, ma'am. I've got a question for our law department. If this council is ever, because I know it's coming with ARPA dollars, is ever sued or prosecution brought against the city, are we protected based on our vote here today?
So,
As
Mr. Neal,
individual members.
so, Mr. Neal, we won't render legal advice in an open meeting of council. If you want to do that, you can submit that to the law department. We'll review it and get back to you with an opinion.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could please make that a part of the minutes, and then they can pull it from the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to continue with old business, budget and finance. Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable, asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules?
Just a point of orders that you don't need to suspend the rules, you're past the third reading.
That's correct. It's been read in 4 times already.
All right, so the committee's report is favorable. I don't know if Chairman has any further comments before we take a vote. Any further comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Nay.
Mosley.
Nay.
Neal. Nay. Amobian.
Nay.
Somerville.
Aye.
The vote is 9-4. The ordinance passes.
Okay. We're going to continue with old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. We'll now move to Public Utilities and Green Committee. Councilman Freeman.
We'll continue to take time. Thank you.
Okay, time will be granted. That concludes old business. We'll now move into new legislation, budget and finance.
Item 0, offered by President Somerville and Councilman Fusco, resolution urging the city administration to collaborate with Akron City Council regarding future revision to existing Section 56 of the 2023 budget ordinance regarding professional service contracts and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's asked that this item be referred. This does refer to item 56 that we've had conversation about, so we could refer it to next week's agenda.
Thank you so much. Time will be granted.
0A is offered by President Somerville, Vice President Fusco, and Councilwoman Holland. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the provision of medical debt relief services for the purpose of providing Akron residents relief from the burden of excessive medical debt and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
I would begin, and I would defer to you, Madam President, and then we can go from there. Several folks, I think, should speak on this.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Tonight is really an exciting night. You know, we are actually putting $500,000 towards to really changing people's lives here in Akron. We're talking about removing some barriers. So this is a game changer. I see our med students who are here with us in the audience. Just want to take an opportunity just to thank you for bringing this to our attention. Again, you know, we don't have all the answers, right? And so that's why it's so important that we do hear from you guys during public comment period, and you bring things to us so that we can work with you to get it done. And so I'm just so excited about this opportunity. We're making this real. We're cementing it by allocating these dollars. Want to thank Councilman Fusco for, again, helping to make sure that we could do that. Also want to thank Councilwoman Holland for all of her hard work and research from the very beginning, again, to make this happen. Councilwoman Holland, do you have some comments? I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Madam President. And really, tonight is a night for the advocates who are conspicuously visible in the first 3 rows. And, you know, really this is an example of the truth that it takes a village, that we are capable of working through and past positions and beliefs. I think some of the most moving testimony I've heard in this room came from some of the advocates who are here tonight. And it was not even just about their experiences as healers, hearing the stories of their patients, but some of their own stories. We are, in the words of a great modern philosopher, all just walking each other home. And the work that this team did, and I'm going to embarrass them by asking Max and James and Mike and Emily to stand, which is not to take anything away from the rest of you, but these four have been tremendous leaders. I look forward to seeing what they do in all the years ahead. And if the room could give this group a round of applause, everybody. So this has been a tricky day. This has been a day of debate. Debate is healthy, and that's our theme right in this moment. We're talking about health. We're talking about well-being. And so we've taken a stand here today in a number of ways that are about the well-being of community and of each other. I think that what we can look forward to here is a building of this movement. And when we keep in mind the basic facts that we know, that 4 in 10 Americans are carrying the burden of medical debt, that medical debt is the single greatest factor in things like divorce and bankruptcy and obstacles to jobs and housing, I think that we did a very good thing here. And so thank you everyone involved. Thank you Councilwoman Somerville, Deputy Mayor Somerville, Councilman Fusco, and so many others who were part of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any, Councilman Fusco?
Just a lot more work ahead, of course. Always more work ahead, right? Everyone's nodding yes. And I hope we're on this horseshoe as well. But no, I just wanted to thank everybody as well. And obviously, we all know that the cost for medical services, especially those that need it the most, oftentimes going to the hospital, you know, whenever maybe it's not warranted, but then again, also, you know, with the fear of, you know, having to pay that bill once it comes, and the cost has been just outrunning inflation time year after year. So with that, just glad that we're heading toward this direction finally, and ready to do some more work on it. And thanks to the whole team here at City Hall, as well as those in the white coats. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to echo the sentiments that have been shared, but also one extra word of appreciation for our med students. A couple of them took a break between committee meeting and council meeting to go over to another council meeting, Summit County Council meeting, see if they can find more money to forgive more debt. And that is the kind of initiative that we have come to expect and that we're really excited to see. And that's the partnership that we need to all engage with our county council members, with the rest of folks across our community in our healthcare sphere, the ADM board and others, to see how we can turn this $500,000 into $1 million into more, because we know the good that it will do. So I'm really proud of the step that we are taking as a whole council, and each and every council member, and the work of the administration. It's a really positive moment for our city.
Thank you so much. And again, I think Councilman Fusco said it, that this is just the beginning. So just want you guys to know that we're not going to stop here, right? We are going to go to the county. We're going to ask them to do just as much as we did, right? So that we can be able to help and change even more people's lives here in Akron. Is there anything else? Any other comments? Councilman Neal?
Yes, ma'am. As I said this afternoon, first, I want to say congratulations to the students. And it's because of you that I have trust that as we flesh this out, it will be equitable. It's because of you that I have that trust. Not raining on your parade, but I stand here and I'm questioning. Because some of you have been here, and you've heard people come down here week after week, month after month, year after year, asking for equity. And then we find, somebody please tell me, how do you find $500,000? How do you find it? Where was it found? I believe my colleague asked, where do we find $500,000? I've sat on boards in this community, and I've sat on national boards. And I don't care, and I'm a deacon at my church. We don't fine $50. If we find $50, we find out where it came from. You don't find that money. Either it's been ledgered wrong, but you don't find that kind of money. So I believe this council needs to understand where was that money found. But this is my concern. For years, we've been talking about the gun violence in this community. And nothing. And then I hear you, Madam President, say, you know what, and we're going to fight for finding even more money, as we should for this. This is a good cause. Please, those of you who know me, you know I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking the systemic dysfunction in this body. Tell the families that have lost their children out in the street. Tell the young people who say the only place they feel safe is in school and in the library. Where's the fight for them for the money? We haven't found $5. So I will not be voting this out of principle. Because like I told you, what showed up downtown, they say 4,000 to 5,000 people. If that would have been on West Akron, you would have had twice as many. And that community wants to be able to support its children, just like the folks on the east side. But we're not giving them anything to do that. So congratulations to you. Again, I'm not taking anything from you, but this body right here, and nothing against you, Ms. Holland, you know, but collectively, the dysfunction. And you're right, if this body can't get it right, we're going to have a new administration. It's unfair to whoever sits in that seat for this body not to be able to function the way it functions. As I said earlier, legislative malpractice, and in this case, it's total disrespect to a community of folk that have come down here week after week about addressing the issues in their community. I'm not even going to mention Mr. Hargrove, and nothing being done. But again, I want to go back to that original question. Please tell me where we found $500,000. Thank you.
Councilman Freeman?
The committee report was favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules, and thank you for finding the money. Yes. Don't know where he got it, but you're getting $500,000. So thank you for all that you have done, and we look forward to some good things happening here because of this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say something, because it's easy to stand up on council floor and to have these types of speeches. But how you find resources and money to do anything is called doing the work. Having conversations. Wow. So I want to make that very clear.
Point of personal privilege, madam.
Please.
You say doing the work. Legislation came in here identifying 10% of the ARPA dollars. It wasn't even looked at. That's doing the work. I know how to do the work. I do it on the local level, I do it on the state level, I do it on the national level. The dysfunction in this council is evident. It's so clear that even Stevie Wonder could see it. So let's not play the games down here anymore. This is legislative dysfunction. It is total disrespect to the black community. It's total disrespect to the communities that are being, having to deal with the violence in their community. This body has done nothing. Go online, folks, and look at this body's goals and objectives. That will speak for itself. That's how this body did the work.
Thank you so much, Councilman Neal. I'm going to ask that you maintain order. Again, work is not just done on Monday nights. So the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor? We're going to take a roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman? Aye. Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Nay.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-1.
We're going to move on to planning and economic development.
Item number 1, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to vary the side yard setback to construct an addition at 49 Jewett Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertised for a public hearing on April 10th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a 3-unit apartment house at 146 Oakdale Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman
For an
Fusco.
advertised for a public hearing on April 10th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a commercial storage building at 226 Crosby Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertised for a public hearing on April 10th.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the single-family residential use district classification, U1H1A1, use on property located east of Home Avenue between Jean Avenue and Annapolis Avenue to a retail business use district classification, U3H1A2 use, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertised for a public hearing on April 17th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare home at 126 West Lowell Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman
For an
Fusco.
advertised for a public hearing on April 17th.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a kennel at 640 East Catawba Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertised for a public hearing on April 24th.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a dumpster business at 1029 West Waterloo Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For an advertised for a public hearing on April 24th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a restaurant microbrewery at 1221 to 1225 West Market Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman
For
Fusco.
an advertised for a public hearing on May 1st.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title I, Chapter 11 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron, Ohio by enacting new sections 11.01 through and including 11.10 to subdivide the city into wards in conformity with the 2020 federal census and Akron Charter Section 28A, amending and/or supplementing Section 1 of Ordinance Number 224-2022, passed July 25th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids to replace the roofing systems on the filter and laboratory buildings at the Akron Water Plant and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee is requesting consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids to replace the HVAC system located in the central locker room at the Water Reclamation Facility and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 12, offered by Mayor Horgan and President Somerville, resolution congratulating the Bookdale High School boys basketball team on winning the Division II Ohio High School Athletic Association State Championship and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. No doubt we are living in historic times with the Bookdale High School basketball team winning the state basketball championship. First basketball championship for a city series team, and I think we go back 45 years. But anyhow, many congratulations to them and their coaching staff and the community. I also wanted to state I'd like to make this for council as a whole, mayor and council as a whole.
Thank you so much.
No objections to that?
Any other comments at this time? Right now, we have a motion on the floor for mayor and council as a whole. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 13, offered by Mayor Horrigan. Resolution congratulating the Archbishop Hoban High School boys basketball team on winning the Division I Ohio High School Athletic Association state championship and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, I feel like this is like back-to-back championships, but that's only when it's the same team. But, you know, these are two local Akron teams that have won the state basketball championship. This time, this is the Archbishop Hoban Knights in Division I. So it's just amazing. They haven't done that in over 30 years, and our congratulations to Coach T. Griffith guiding the team, and to have his son as a senior on that team, I'm sure it was very special for them and the whole Hoban community. So again, I'd like to make this for mayor and council as a whole.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Baylor. Connor. Freeman. Fusco. Holland. Kane. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilman Neal.
Thank you. I wanted to stand, beautiful celebration yesterday, beautiful that folks came up. And I'm standing now because, as I've stated before, our minutes do not always reflect everything that takes place in council. Yesterday was historic for many reasons, but mainly because the young people get it. They understood how important what two sides of town did, not just bringing state championships to this city, but with all the negative energy that became coming through. If you read the articles in the paper, they spoke about how it was good to have something positive come to this city. And I want to say that because somebody may read the minutes and just think that council, I'm saying this because I understand these videos are going to be historic and somebody's going to pick this up. And this goes back to what I said about the budget and everything else. These young people get it. It's nice that we supported them with a parade and we support them with a resolution. We're not supporting them with what really matters, which is our dollars. So that we can give them things to do outside of being in the safe space at school. If you read the articles, you'll see they want that, no matter what side of town they're on. So I'm just rising today to say thank God for the coaches, the example that they set for the communities, for the way they rallied around the young. But it's time for us to do more than just a resolution and put our money and support these young people. And it's done by putting money into each one of the wards so that those communities that showed up, and not only those communities but the others, are represented and have the resources to support the youth. And then I want to say one last thing. I see Lieutenant Miller back there. We didn't say anything when we did this, but this is more so for Bookto. When the years, not just Bookto, but all the teams in Akron Public Schools, because we all know what happened last year, 2 years ago, when the season ended on a bad note for two of the premier public school basketball teams. Beginning of the year, Miller and some officers, the coaches, all of the varsity players on the male and female basketball teams, and men from the community gathered together, broke bread, and we asked those young people for their advice on how we could address the issues in the community. And they freely gave it. And if any of you went to the games, how many of you went to a high school basketball game throughout the year? If you notice, coming at the beginning of the national anthem, they didn't stand on separate sides. They met in the middle and locked arms. I want to give credit to Coach Ed Smith, coach at Garfield High School, for coming up with that suggestion. But the young people, and that sports followed all the way then when you hear about our teams, all of our teams, and especially Buchtel, since they made it to the end and won the state championship, they talk about just the quality of those young men. So hats off again to APS, hats off to the APD because they sponsored the pizza party for all those young people, and hats off to hats off to the young people that work. We just want to continue to support them.
Councilman, any other comment at this time? Councilman Malik?
We just passed it, so never mind.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Holland?
Procedural point.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam President. So earlier, on the vote on item 2, under old business, I think I actually misheard the item called, and I want to make sure that my vote is accurately recorded. And my vote on that should be nay.
Could we take a moment so I can discuss this with our law department?
At this time, we're just going to take a recess just so that we can properly address Councilwoman Holland's concern. Temporary recess.
You don't have to do that. Oh my God.
If you vote no, that means it didn't happen. Okay, let me know.
Okay, Akron City Council will now come back into session.
Be allowed to do that as long as the members of this council all vote favorably to allow her to change her vote. So at this time, I'm going to do a roll call. Ask your aye vote is that yes, you are in favor of allowing her to change her vote from aye to nay on item number 2. Okay. Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
Okay. Vote will be reflected in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, so sorry.
I like it. I like your magnets.
14 is a resolution declaring the month of 2023 Minority Health Month in the city of Akron to raise awareness about health disparities that continue to affect relations and encourage action through health education, detection, and control of disease complications and declaring.
Councilwoman Amobian.
Madam President, favorable with the suspension of the rule.
Are there any objections? Suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This afternoon, we had the pleasure of having 2 representatives from Summit County Public Health. Their names were Stephanie Roy and Christian Harris. Did I get that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct.
Okay, I didn't bring my little piece of paper from work. And they talked about 2 events, and I know for a number of years now, April has been Minority Health Disparity Month. It's where we talk about all the issues that minorities are faced with, things like diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it. It's just ravaging the African American communities. There are 2 events on April the 26th. That organization is having those 2 events, and there may be more. They will be circulating flyers to let the public know about these.
Okay. Rules have been suspended.
Ma'am, I may as well just ride this to the end. Public health crisis. It's nice that we passed solutions. It's time to put some money behind it. You talk.
Let's do it.
It's time to do the work.
Let's do it.
We've been having this discussion for a while. Appreciate the month goes by, problems still stay. We haven't done a thing. New day, new opportunity. Look forward to us finding some money to buy the public health crisis in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Any other comments at this time? have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Aye. Fusco. Hamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick. Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
Passes 12-0.
That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment. I ask that you please stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that Thank you.
With Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, I'm John 7 Wyndham Road in Akron. As a white racist, because I grew up in and remain caught in a white racist caste system that every day, even though I benefit from it every day. For those, the 9th seat on the Citizens Review Board, I am praying that all of us will be able to admit racist too. Even though, and why is it? Because racism by the expert is prejudice, white power in our society. That's why I am a white racist. I hope that we all can admit that we're even though Imilkai is as smart or smarter than all of us, our white fragility, our white racism, the white racism of our after he denied young people who are most suffering from racism that's even ingrained the way our black brothers and sisters see each other. This person, after he denied Emil from being on this advisory board, said he didn't see race. He didn't care if a person pink, purple, or blue. But racism is a religion of place. Our place is not their place. And nothing offends white racists more than an uppity Negro. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I see.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to start out by thanking each and every member and a member of the administration for passing this ordinance to clear medical debt. For my testimony and in the spirit of this moment, I wanted to avoid sharing another past patient medical costs and debt with into Woman Holland in the past, what it will be like when an Akron resident gets notified that their medical debt gets officially cleared. And I wanted to do that by sharing what Kay from Georgia said when she got her medical debt cleared. Medical debt is one of those things people worry about but end up putting on the back burner due to other priorities in life, such as bills, mortgages, car payments, and other life expenses. There's one less unpaid bill floating around out there with my name. I am beyond grateful and will do my best to pay it forward as soon as possible. Thank you so much for this extremely pleasant, unexpectedly never heard of RIP medical debt before today. I'm very glad your nonprofit exists. It is wonderful to there are still people out there dedicated to helping humanity and realize that really. I really look, end quote. I really look forward to Akron residents sharing this experience of having medical debt cleared from their record and this burden being lifted off their shoulders. I cannot thank the Akron City Council and administration enough for making this happen, and Woman Holland for championing this along with several other members. And just as a final aside, Councilwoman Holland, we did have to share the embarrassment by singing happy birthday to you today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Brooks McKinley.
I'm Brooks McKinley, Ward 5 resident and graduate of the medical student at 2, and just sharing another story, hopefully for you guys from actual Akron residents. But Daniel from Texas said, I've been struggling to rebuild credit and have been beset by seemingly invisible obstacles. This debt was one of those obstacles. My credit score has gone up enough to allow me a loan that I needed to consolidate my debt and gain control of a near catastrophe. I thank you with all my heart. End quote. I want to thank the council for their continued support through this resolution, and as an Akron resident, it really means a lot to me. Certainly fully care about the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinley. Kim Brooks, did you want to speak? Max Brockwell?
Hello, I'm Matt. On behalf of myself, I would also just like to take a moment to thank, all the members of council for working on us with this resolution so that we can get the people who need this help the money that they need in order to relieve medical debt soon. So thank you specifically Councilwoman Holland, Councilman Fusco, President Somerville, and everyone else who has worked with us on this. It's, hugely appreciated. Also, just to take a moment, sharing a story of their debt relieved so we can get a little taste of what we can look forward to as medical debt is actually paid off. So this story comes from Jocelyn, who is a fellow Ohioan. Medical debt has consumed my finances, and I've been overwhelmed trying to consolidate prior and current medical bills. This was such a nice surprise to receive in the mail, especially during a pandemic year. I can't express my gratitude enough to receive this debt relief, but hopefully I can pass along my instilled faith I have in humanity during these times, that there is hope and that acts of generosity come in unexpected places. It brought me the biggest smile to my heart, and I will pass that on as well, as we all know how contagious they can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Emily?
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a second year at NeoMed. You guys have heard me speak before. I used all of my really good words to say thank you 2 weeks ago, but I'd like to reiterate gratitude and my encouragement to every member of council. You've done profound good for the residents of this city. I've attended many meetings of the Akron City Council at this point, and I think it's a fair statement to say that during that time there have been many, often very bitter disagreements between members of council. even today. And I really applaud your willingness to put aside any differences that you have, to act really decisively, and to prioritize this really crucial, important issue. I credit every member of the council with a heart for the people of Akron and a desire to serve. Therefore, it's my belief that conflict between members of council do not arise from any fundamental differences of values, rather disagreement in the best way to pursue those values. I trust you all with that. I trust each of you to take the enthusiasm, the empathy, and the dedication you've shown to us, to the many, many worthy issues that are brought before you every single week. As Councilman Neal very rightly said, we are the only cause that deserves your time and your attention and your care. It's my sincere hope that as contentious issues and disagreement continue to shape and influence the actions of this council, they can look to this project as an example of what can happen when everybody works together to do something good. Please don't let that cooperation stop here. You all are allies on the issue of debt relief. Continue to be allies in the consideration of new policies, in the votes you cast, and as you listen to the people of Akron. The people who come to these meetings do so because they care about the city. They're no different from me and my colleagues. We just have, cheap coats that we got at the bookstore of our med school. We have no special claim to your time or your money, and others here shouldn't need the legitimacy of a white coat to stand before the council and demand action on the issues in their own community. Thank you all again. I remain incredibly grateful for your openness to us. Please preserve this kindness you've extended to us, to everybody else who comes before you. Thank you all again.
Emily, thank you so much for sharing those words. Anthony, and I'm sorry I might mispronounce the last name.
Hello. My name is Anthony Cirinello. I'm an Akron practicing civil rights attorney in Ohio. I thought I'd come introduce myself today because I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of me going forward. After tonight's vote on the budget, I'm convinced a majority of this council has knowingly endeavored to shirk its responsibility for a public hearing before the approval of public funding. This was an injustice to the Akron public. I ask you today, why keep creating injustice? Because it's the way things always have been done? Because you keep getting away with it? If there's anything that we have to be proud of from Akron's history, I believe it's that this place used to be a place for innovation. We have left that place. I ask that you don't silence the community going forward. As a student of history and as a doctor of jurisprudence, I would advise you, when you ignore the public's voice, it is only a matter of time until the public ignores yours. Speaking of silencing the community, I've made a new friend since my move here to Akron. His name is Imokai Okolo, a fellow Akron attorney and a black man silenced in his pursuit to hold the Akron police accountable for their actions. From 2016 to 2020, I worked as a clerk and an attorney with the Chandra Law Firm in Cleveland. During my time there, we were perhaps known for our representation of the family of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy who was murdered a block behind my house. This pattern of silencing the black community has followed me through the United States. In my hometown of Staten Island, Eric Garner was suffocated by the NYPD on the streets of the biggest city in the country in broad daylight. Last year, here, Jayland Walker. Imokai sits in this room with us tonight. As a civil rights attorney, it is my legal advice to him that his First Amendment rights were violated. How can we believe Imokai has a freedom of speech when we know the enormous consequences he has suffered as a result? I do agree to some extent, though, for Imokai to call the police who murdered Jayland Walker pigs was an affront to pigs. I don't think the pig species deserves to be likened to publicly funded murderers. Imokai deserved his voice to be heard, and this community stands with him. Thanks.
Anthony, thank you. Is Fran here with us?
Hello, my name is Fran Wilson. I'm a local organizer. We just heard that the operating budget passed, and so there's a capital budget, and then there's the operating budget for those of you don't know, and I just learning as well. The operating budget is departmental costs, personnel costs. This is passed usually in the spring, and then capital budget, which is multi-year, and infrastructure projects, which is passed in the fall. We just passed the operating budget without having a public hearing. My understanding, after consulting a civil rights attorney, was that we, council, may have violated city code. I sent an email about a half an hour ago. 3 weeks ago, I sent an email to several city councilors about having and hosting town halls and public hearings, and was met with no response. Do we want people with us in these rooms when we talk about the priorities of our budget? Do we? I am typically one of a handful of citizens that come and watch the budget hearings every single year. And it is a great concern to me that I can't even my ideas during the actual presentations of these budgets. So I want to share them now with the 1 minute and 30 seconds I have left. Housing. After the monoxide poisoning at Timber Top, the hundreds of evictions that have been going on. We are living in an eviction crisis right now here in Akron. After the sewage flooding that was reported over and over and over and over again at the Erickson, after City Council made it a priority to have task force to deal with housing issues, where is housing accountability in this budget? Where is it? We have not bolstered the Housing Inspections Division. I don't know if we passed iPads. Did we get iPads? We got iPads. That's exciting. But we still need to bolster inspections and bolster mandatory inspections. I also want to draw, we do not have adequate funding to help resource and support our refugee and immigrant community here in Akron, and I think we need a staffer to look into that. And then APD. Throwing money at a department that kills and brutalizes with impunity, that is not required to wear name tags, solving money or throwing money at these departments is not going to solve the root issues in our community, and we have so much work to do. And I really, really wish that we could have had public hearings, and I hope we can do that next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran, and we'll make sure that you get a response to the email you sent. We do have some people online that wish to participate. Just going to ask if there are individuals online that you just turn your cameras on and unmute yourself so that you can be sworn in by our clerk.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Is Beth Vild on with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Madam President. I would like to first of all say and reiterate when I hear people within Akron City government knowing how the Klan took over the city in 1925 and appointed people who appointed people who appointed people as part of the KKK, that when we say this is the way it's always been done, it's usually systemic racism. I would also like to reflect that environment is simply a reflection of a just or unjust society. And while the outskirts of our city has been subject to increased urban sprawl, and the inner parts of our city have been left to little investment or systemic opportunity, I wonder that the administration's hesitancy to join Power a Clean Future Ohio is based on pettiness around who proposed it, a lack of wanting to have accountability of a third party overseeing these issues, and an unwillingness to collaborate and work with others even in the face of East Palestine, which is the country's worst disaster. The local work being done to work across sectors with grass top leaders through Summit of Sustainability Alliance is being done around looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for several reasons. The UN is already measuring our city around these issues, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It is something each sector can convince their holders around. It takes an equity-first approach, and it is a third-party government entity to hold local government, which was incredibly important in the 2019 strategic planning process of going from the Summit of Sustainability Awards into Alliance. Organizations are welcomed with open arms to join this larger effort to move us through our sustainability goals as a region. It would be easy, incredibly easy, to slide Power Clean Future Ohio into running the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which is clean energy. I encourage, as COO and Director of Programming from the Big Love Network, that City Council approve this resolution, that you also get involved with Summit of Sustainability Alliance. I also highly encourage, whether you think that you are running by yourself or have yet to see an independent run against you, as incumbent members of this board.
Beth, your time is up, but I was going to let you wrap up.
Historic moment on April 1st, this Saturday, 10:30 to 12:30, at the Old Temple Israel, which is hub for our very first Akron Environmental Justice Candidate Forum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beth. Megan Lugo?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Megan Lugo. During many a city council meeting, I'm often reminded of the words of the great Kourtney Kardashian, Kim, there's people that are dying. There are so many issues pressing this city, and as Councilman Neal, I believe, was getting at, we don't focus on them. While resolutions should be passed to honor basketball teams, resolutions should also be passed to address the pressing issues of our times that are existential, life and death threats to our people. That is why I urge you to pass the Power Clean Future Ohio resolution. Climate change is a real and present threat to people, particularly the marginalized, the poor, people of color. There really is no good reason not to adopt the resolution. It's not binding, it's a framework. I've heard some even call it free consulting. I don't know why we would walk away from that. There's no reason. It can't be adopted into Akron's equity and social justice goals. You all have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Now, I know there is an argument made against this because this city is supposedly addressing social justice goals, and these are not opposing ends. Anyone actually engaged in this work knows that environmental justice is racial justice, is social justice, is simply justice. Moreover, it can be questioned or must be questioned whether the city attends to social justice or pretends to. Jalen Walker died in the city because he supposedly broke the law. Our lawmakers want our votes and our tax dollars while doing the same, breaking the law, violating their own charter. And those lawmakers, leaders, and officials expect us to believe they are pursuing social justice. Claims to social justice by those who perpetuate a system of inequity and equality and disparity are only a smokescreen to prevent actual progress, which this resolution would ensure. So I hope you all will sign or pass this resolution so we can actually make the change we need instead of remaining firmly rooted in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Stephanie Baker?
Yes, hello.
I'm Stephanie Baker, and I'd like to urge Council to join the Power of a Clean Future Ohio campaign. Climate change needs government buy-in because it's not something that can be solved at an individual level, no matter how much the world's biggest polluters claim that recycling a plastic bottle will help. The mayor is trying to divide citizens by making this seem to be a decision between fighting racism and doing environmental work, but these issues go hand in hand, and the community wants both these issues badly. We speak about racism and environmental concerns at almost every council meeting. Please pass the resolution to join A Clean Future Ohio. We need all the help we can get to make any strides in climate change. I'd also like to speak against Section 58, secret mayoral spending item. City Council has been advocating its spending oversight for the past 6 years. I understand that this is legal, but this item, along with giving the mayor sole discretion in ARPA funding, leaves citizens in the dark and uneasy in what council and the city is doing. It leaves council unable to back projects while the mayor gives tens of thousands of dollars to consultants. I hope that going forward, council retains more control. I really appreciate that council people Holland, Malik, Amobian, Neal, and Mosley shared their desire for transparency in government. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is Alicia online? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Okay, I don't think she's online with us. So that's going to conclude our public comments for this evening. We'll now move into committee assignments, rules. Councilman Fusco, if you can fill in, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Public safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and finance, Councilwoman Amobian. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman McKittrick.
2:45.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Neil?
Thanks, Madam President. 2 things. One, I think we all got an email about the housing plan and how folks in Group B probably wouldn't be serviced. I'd like for us as a council together to take a look at that. I did have a chance to reach out to Mr. Tatum. Here's my concern. My ward meeting, when my constituents, over 70 constituents were there to learn about the ARPA home plan, was canceled because of a bomb threat. Because of threats. Now, understand this. The rec center where the meeting was held was still open. All other city buildings across the city were open. The meeting that was held after my ward meeting wasn't canceled the day after. Neither was the one the week before. My constituents were put at a disadvantage. So I want us to take a look at that, because any of my constituents that were pushed to Group B or didn't have their applications looked at, they need equitable redress. Did I get that right to our attorneys on council? Thank you. Uh-oh, look out, look out. But, I mean, this is serious. So I don't know how many of them may have gotten pushed to Group B because of that taking place, but it needs to be looked at. And then collectively, as has been mentioned by many of you, this is the one ARPA plan initiative that our constituents are really concerned about. We need to address it. The second thing I saw in the paper, maybe I missed the email, where we're moving the deadline for seating that last seat to Wednesday. I believe we need to have an executive session to have a discussion, because we talk about equity, but Amokai wasn't even given equal consideration compared to the others. None of the others were under the same scrutiny. Things have been brought to me about some of the folks that have been selected. Questionable things about conflict of interest, some past practices that were unethical. I'm saying we take a look at those and see if they're true, not to remove them from, because let him without sin cast the first stone. But I'm saying when we find those things to be the case, which we will, that we give them the grace that I remember Pastor Pound standing there talking about. And he advocated for that grace for Mokai. Because if we cannot give, if we give them the grace, there's no way we can go through this process without extending the same grace to a Mokai. Everyone on that committee needs to go through the same scrutiny. And then I asked this question, never got an answer, because this is concerning. When we talk about systemic practice, especially when we talk about the systemic practice of government and law enforcement and the black community, especially black men. I want to know who else was on that list that the FOP said they didn't want on the committee. We are owed that information. Because if you understand anything about the systemic practice of law enforcement and government and the black community, from J. Edgar Hoover to the assassination of Fred Hampton, the assassination of Martin Luther King, the assassination of Malcolm X, and so many others, folks that we'll never even learn about their names because their bodies are somewhere in some woods somewhere. The history of this country. That's systemic. Now in this case, thank God it wasn't, the end result wasn't like those that I mentioned. But it was still a practice that was an attack on a young black man. So I think this body is owed the answer to who else was on that list. Was a Mokai the only one, or were there others?
Thank you. And Councilman Neal, will you provide us the other information regarding the other applicants? Are you able to get us that information?
I forwarded all those who signed in to Teresa. So Teresa in the mayor's office has that information. And she reached out to them after the fact. She did do that. But the fact was they were there for that meeting. No one from the administration showed up. Matter of fact, I had to find out that the meeting was canceled on a whim. I wasn't even given the courtesy of a call that the meeting was canceled. So, but Teresa has a list.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Malik?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. If no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.